got Sean Frank in the studio, the wallet salesman here to break it down, talks tariffs. Great to have you on the show, Sean. How you doing?
Dude, I'm excited to be here. I typically watch at 2x speed and I got like 2 or 3 screens going. So, I feel a little bit ahead of the curve here. I think I know what you guys are going to say next.
Oh, yeah?
What's that?
Yeah. What are we going to say next?
I mean, you guys are going to compliment my suit, I assume.
It's a fantastic suit.
There we
it's
go.
a fantastic suit.
He's got a suit. He's got a suit.
He's got a suit. Let's go. Anyway.
Looking great.
I want to run through a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, there's so much to cover. How are you doing? First of all,
how was the private equity conference at Jefferies? I thought it was a little derivative of the TBPN format. You said you spent the day talking to 14 different firms, 30-minute meetings, speed dating style. We do 30-minute segments on this show. What's going on? Are you copying us? What's happening?
Dude, it wasn't me, but Vinay, the senior vice president of Jefferies, is a huge TBPN fan.
Okay.
He's like, dude, I'm a day one listener. I'm in chat. I stole this from them. Don't tell him about it. So.
Okay. Well, maybe we can have a truce then. That's great. He can borrow from us, the official creator of the 30-minute segment over here on TBPN. But yeah, how was it? What did you learn? Who'd you talk to? Can you break it down for us?
Yeah, so it was a mid-market consumer conference. So to break that down for the audience, I'm sure everyone here knows what that means. There's probably a lot of LPs and funds, but mid-market is like 100 million to like 500 million in revenue. Mm-hmm. They're typically deploying checks of like 25 to 100 million dollars.
Mm-hmm. That's on the equity side, right? Obviously not the total
round.
So
the businesses are doing between 100 and 500 million. Is that right?
Yeah, typically that's the valuations that they target, right? And then their equity checks in are, 25 to 150 million, something like that.
Yep.
These are smaller private equity funds. They're typically $1 billion raised and deployed.
Yep.
And this is like the first professional layer for private equity, right? Like small market private equity is very scrappy. It is like guys who look like us, like out there grinding it out, trying to find deals, where these people are professional bankers through and through. So they're going to go to good schools. They're going to have, 5 to 10 years in the industry. And yeah, so like this is not your mega funds. These people are not deploying $5 billion checks, right? The fund size will be under $5 billion.
Yeah.
And they're very targeted on consumer. So anything consumer discretionary. What we've seen is that segment of the market has been destroyed probably since 2022. It got really, really hot in 2021. There was a bunch of SPACs in the space, right? Famously, you have like, Warby Parker, but then you also have Solo Stove that just got delisted on Monday.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of great, smart people, and there's people who are on the Solo Stove deal. So Solo got taken public by Summit, but Summit's like a little bit bigger than a mid-market fund. The first check into Summit was Bertram. So Bertram Capital, really great firm based in the Bay. So they found Solo when Solo was doing 60 million in top line, right? They put a check in at like $100 million valuation. They probably owned 40% of the business, maybe more, and then they sell it to a different fund. So that's typically how mid-market works. You're going to be selling to a different fund to take them public. So Bertram made a ton of money. They sold all of their shares to Summit, right? Maybe they had a little bit more that they sold in the IPO. But then, a larger cap fund is going to take a company public. So what's happening in the space? They are cold on consumer, and the only categories that are interesting for them are services. So like talk to a lot of funds who are buying like roofing roll-ups and they're trying to buy plumbers, like that type of shit, like because it's non-discretionary spend. If your roof fucks up, like you're going to get a new roof. And they're really into the pet space. Like pet is still really hot. I have a friend, Bill, who just announced today he sold his company to Morgan Stanley in the pet space. And it's on Twitter. You guys can engage with it. So check out Bill. He's crushing it.
Yeah, I saw that. He's been grinding for a long time. So that was great to see.
Yeah.
It's funny. There's a guy who works in mid-market PE who knew that I was friends and and associates with Sean, and he basically would email me once a week for like 3 years asking for an intro.
That's amazing. I want to stay. I want to stay on Solo Stove. You broke down what happened. Is it a casualty of tariffs? Is it mismanagement? We've talked about it a little bit before, but can you give us the full post-mortem, post-NYSE suspension, which we hate to see here? We want to see more IPOs, not more delistings.
Yeah. It's a lot market activity in the wrong way.
Yes.
So what's happening with Solo? So there's like the bigger third thing. And actually, I mean, I'll break some news. I talked to the corporate dev buyer at Yeti, who was at the conference yesterday. And I asked her, I'm like, oh, so are you going to buy Solo? And she's like, even if you gave it to me for free, I don't know what I'd do with it. She's like,
why is that? Isn't it making like 500 million? We looked in the numbers recently. It seemed like it was like, even if revenues are declining, even if there's tariffs, like there are people buying stoves. There must be a way to make some money out of that company, right? Am I crazy?
Yeah, there's a lot of debt.
Okay.
And people, there's two main problems. One, it was like the biggest COVID trend of all time, right? There was a 2-year period where all of us were stuck inside, couldn't travel. We all discovered the great outdoors. They sold a lot of stoves, and there's a negative flywheel for that business.
Sure.
If you sell one stove, you're never going to buy a second stove. Like it removes a buyer from the market. So now it's harder to sell the second stove. So it's a horrible problem with that business. The second is massive tariff risk. They are 100% sourced in China. They are very tight with the manufacturer there, and you just cannot get stoves right now. So you have a situation where their growth solution the past 2 years has been to go to mass market retail. They're in Costco, they're in, Home Depot, whatever. And then those retailers won't let you raise prices. So you have a contract to sell it to whatever price. You're direct importing from China. You have stuff on the water, and now your inventory is essentially toxic, right? Like, they cost $75 to make. Are you going to give the government $125? Like, probably not. So
that's rough. Okay, so casualty of tariffs then, or mismanagement, or
well, I mean, we talked about this months ago. Remember, we were kind of looking, and at first it was a debt issue, and that issue was looming regardless of tariffs happening or not. It seemed like it was.
So it seemed like this was predictable from day one. If you were really clear-eyed about that inverse flywheel you mentioned, and then also like the COVID dynamic.
How about Chubbies though? Chubbies has to have some broader. It
that
feels
has a
like,
positive flywheel.
Like
you buy one pair of shorts, you like them, you buy more, and then you're replacing those shorts every year, right?
Yeah, look, and I love all these guys. So Kyle, the founder of Chubbies, is awesome. He's building a software product. Won't plug them. They got to pay for that, but really smart founder. And Chubbies is a good business. Like Chubbies does $100 million a year top line. They do $10 million in EBITDA. Like that business is worth something to somebody. But John Maris was the CEO of Solo, and his idea to solve the negative flywheel was to bolt on acquisitions. He's like, I'm gonna, I'll fix my company-wide LTV by having Solo customers buy Chubby shorts. And that just didn't happen, right? Like they could never integrate it. Because somebody likes the outdoors doesn't make them more likely to be a Chubby's customer, right? Yeah, it would make more sense if Chubby's, I don't know, started selling beer pong equipment or something, right? Like there could be some sort of like, positive flywheel there. But their solution was to broaden the overall product offering with just like very distinct businesses that have no cross-sell ability. So,
yeah, can you talk about? People have this idea that I feel like everybody's in love with the idea of a consumer product holding company because like people just like consumer goods and they're like, oh, we're good at selling this, we'll be good at selling that. But then understanding your focus and Connor's focus over the last coming up on a decade in not too long, the idea that somebody could compete in the wallet space with you guys while being part-time is just like insane, right? Because you guys are best in the world at what you do and you're just able to put more time into it than anyone else. Is the consumer product holding company model just like generally flawed? Is it not something that people should be going after, or is it just more about actually having like distinct businesses and ultra competent management in place in each of them?
So it's just really fallen out of vogue, right? So very famously in the past 2 weeks, Hermes became the largest, most valuable company in the consumer space, right? They're worth 300 whatever billion, and they surpassed LVMH. So LVMH is the holdco model, right? And that was the like everyone wanted to be a holdco because LVMH was, and then Keurig became a holdco, right? They have Gucci, they have a bunch of assets. Well, Gucci just put out their earnings; they're down 25% year over year. That came out on Monday, right? So, like the holdco model is just falling out of favor in favor of Hermes, single standalone brand, super valuable. Lululemon set the trend. Lululemon is worth more than Honda. So Lululemon makes awesome leggings that we all love. They trade more than the best car company or one of the best car companies. And then On Running is also broke this trend, right? So On Running's worth $10 billion today, single brand, just making shoes. So right now, the markets are valuing beautiful brand, super clean focus, owning a category. That'll change again, right? There's really great holdcos out there. The people behind Crocs owns Hey Dude. They're becoming a great holdco. Deckers is another shoe company.
Yeah.
They're crushing it in the holdco space.
But isn't there something about even the way that LVMH has approached their holdco, which is like we never share kind of creative resources across brands. Like there's very distinct kind of like firewalls in place. Is there something to that? Is that what you think? Does Deckers sort of benefit from scale as just being like a massive shoe manufacturer, and then it's like when it comes to the kind of individual brand level, like let's just make sure that people are ultra focused on the sort of the purity of the brand and sort of scaling that?
What I think LVMH does beautifully, LVMH calls them houses, right? So they're houses, but they're in the same neighborhood, right? And what they're able to do is they have L Catterton, which is like they're picking up. Like imagine this is like basketball. There's like amazing high school players, right? L Catterton is signing those high school players. L Catterton is their private equity arm, very much owned and controlled by the Arnault family. So Chrome Hearts is the greatest American accessory brand that's in the L Catterton portfolio. At some point, they get called up to the major leagues, and then they get integrated into LVMH, and then LVMH has the spotlight approach. So, of course, Louis Vuitton is always going to be the best branded in the spotlight, but when there's a challenger like Off-White, they can put that in the spotlight for a little bit, and then that becomes their star player, and they cycle out to somebody else. They just got caught flat-footed that they don't have a good star player right now. So, like that's the challenge with LVMH. Keurig tried to do that, right? Richemont is the other big holdco in the European fashion space. Richemont's crushing it because they own Van Cleef and they own Cartier. Those brands are very, very hot right now. So LVMH is trying to take over Richemont because they want to be in the spotlight. So that is the inside baseball, the inside basketball, if you will, of the luxury space. You need to have recruits and you need to have a star player you can cycle out. And LVMH just doesn't have a hot brand right now.
I like this idea of the pure play. It aligns with like the founder mode, the life's work entrepreneur, just not getting too scatterbrained and focusing on one thing. What is the post-mortem on some of the pure play companies in the fashion space that weren't able to reach escape velocity? I'm thinking of Allbirds and a few other brands in that space. Is it just doing too much too early, or is it just like missing some fundamental insight, or is it more of like a market segment and this maybe works in the high-end luxury market, but it doesn't work when you're more in that $100 range competing directly with Nike? What's your take on that?
Well, you can't be cool forever. So that's the biggest challenge. Allbirds was really cool, but San Francisco famously horribly dressed people, right? They have no sense of fashion. Why do we think they're going to tell us what's cool, right?
I agree.
And they were betting on a sustainability wave, right? So like Nike is able to, like, they just benefited from people caring about athleticism, right? That took them from $1 billion stock in the 80s to 180 billion today or whatever, right?
But they were caught flat-footed by wellness, right? And that, and if effectively Nike was the brand for sports enthusiasts, everything from fans to athletes, but then wellness kind of came out of nowhere, took the the aloe crowd whenever they're
Lululemon
on running in many ways. Lululemon, obviously. So it seems like Nike missed the wellness trend, and that was again probably the biggest miss.
Yeah.
Dude,
What's your take?
well, and their stock suffered for it, right? I mean, like Nike is down massively from all-time highs. They're down from their 5-year mark.
Wow.
And it's because they missed that trend and they didn't pivot in fast enough. The other thing that's happening in beauty right now. So if you go to Sephora, you're either a celebrity brand or you're a wellness brand. That's
Yep.
all the newness going into Sephora. So Sephora and beauty in general is going through this wellness craze right now as well. Like skincare is taking over everything. So we're going to watch more of those waves happen. Consumer trends change over time. You can't be cool forever. So the whole thing, like, and this is the biggest problem with venture capital coming into the consumer space. Coca-Cola is the most popular drink in America, and it doesn't even have 20% market share because people like different drinks, right? Now, Uber is a service that is just great for everybody. They'll have 100% of like the ride hailing market, right?
Yep.
Google, it's just the best. So I'm
Yep.
going to Google everything. There's no second player. In consumer,
There's
taste
no
is just so
power law
important.
outcomes. There's no monopoly outcomes. They're just inherently oligopolistic markets. Interesting. So if you go back to the founders they focus on the pure plays.
Well, I have a good example of something you brought up before. I mean, Chrome Hearts
I was about to ask.
needs to be studied, and one of the reasons why, right now it's like they've never been hotter, but they've gone through periods where they certainly weren't nearly as hot. And I'm curious what you think they've done right. I think, to my knowledge, they've stayed mostly family owned, or certainly majority family owned. And is that, do you think, allowed them to kind of like ride different waves and not, if at any point they were overly fixated on just pure scale, maybe they would have not been able to kind of come back in the way that they have. But I'm curious what your take is.
Yeah, I mean, the creative minds behind Chrome Hearts, they're artists. They're going to do what they're going to do with or without you. If you think it's cool, if you don't think it's cool. Like Cher was wearing Chrome Hearts in the 90s, bro. Like they're owned by the Sinatra family. Like they're going to do what they're going to do, and it'll come in and out of vogue, but they don't care, right? So that's true authenticism. Like they've never chased revenue. Like they'll make pants that are like $112,000 because that's what they choose to do that day. And then you know who buys them? Drake. It's like,
well, I've heard they basically they'll mog Drake too. They'll be like, Drake will be like, I want some new pants, and they'll be like, cool, like get in line. Like other people want the pants too, and then Drake has to like, try to cozy up with the the essay. But
that's hilarious.
Yeah, so it's just like a commitment to the craft that, like, I mean, this is the reason why the Europeans are so good at fashion, is because they will do it for 50 years making no fucking money, right? Or Goyard. Goyard's another like amazing brand. They just don't have a website. You can't buy on their website. Now, it'd be awesome. They would make way more money. And if private equity owned them, they would open a website immediately. But no, they're like, no, we want you to remember where you bought the bag. That's important to us. So like you have to go wait in line, and you can only buy what we have that day. And it just creates like a very personal relationship with the products that people are longing for in the internet age. So yeah, dude, the Europeans are the best at this. I talk a lot of shit about Europe, but they do have this figured out.
Yeah. I want to go to tariffs. I saw a viral thread yesterday by Ramon Van Meer. He says, everyone says they'd pay more for made in the USA. I tested it. We make a $129 filtered shower head manufactured in China with tariff surging to 170%. We explored reshoring. We found a US supplier. Our costs nearly tripled. I ran a clean A/B test. You had two options. There were 25,000 users that did this, the exact same landing page. You can choose made in China for $129 or made in the USA for $239. And they had 0 conversions on the US version. The add to cart rate for the US version was less than 1%, and over 3,500 people bought the Asia made version. How did you process that news? There's some community notes on it. I want to know what you think.
Yeah, I think overall it was flawed experiment, but it's a good story. But what do you got,
Good
Sean?
viral post.
Yeah, we've seen this play out with sustainability, right? So people had two options on their website, like sustainable packaging and we'll buy carbon credits versus not. And like people won't pay more than 5% for that. So it ends up being there's tons of cheap goods in the marketplace and there's tons of substitute goods in the marketplace. And what you need value props to stand out. So like Ridge has, best materials. We have a great warranty. We have a tons of reviews. We have social proof. These are just value props. Made in the USA can or cannot be a value prop, right? And if he ran that experiment with a Japanese audience, what you'd see is the Japanese audience is more willing to pay for made in America goods. And if you go to Japan, there's entire stores built around made in the USA, right? If you go to Dubai, it's the same thing.
Let's hear it for the Japanese, showing some love for the Americans. And so paint me a broader picture about how the tariffs are affecting e-commerce. Is it a bloodbath? Are people figuring out ways around it? Is it going to put companies out of business? Are people going to lose jobs?
Without a doubt, it's the most challenging, self-imposed regulation we've ever seen, right? Like we went through COVID, that was hard for a lot of reasons. That was external forces, right? We went through iOS 14. We're peons in that. We have no idea. We can't control that. Consumer demand has been up and down for fucking years at this point. I have a lot of friends who will go out of business because of the tariffs, right? And a lot of people on the internet, are celebrating that. They're like, well, fuck them for buying for China. But here's the thing. A year ago, it was encouraged. It's like, it's very hard to actually produce things in America. I've tried for years. I've put millions of dollars into it. So like the government basically gave you a free pass to buy international goods and then import them. And then all of a sudden it's became very, very difficult to get anything in from China. And I don't think small independent businesses should suffer for that. I've publicly appealed to JD Vance. I'm like, look, I totally get you want to incentivize made in the USA stuff. Like, don't just steal our money in like a massive tax. I have shit on the water. You're just making me give you money. Like, this is the government getting more revenue and getting bigger. Let's put it into a fund where if like I owe you that money unless I invest in American business.
Yeah, I thought this was a really good take and a really good kind of concept, especially too kind of basically extending out the timelines. The policy as it stands today is just like pure pain now, like you're being like, punished versus what you laid out. So maybe extrapolate on that a little bit.
Yeah, like look, I mean, I understand the goals, and this is hurting China more than America. Like I think people in America are whining and complaining because like TN shipments or Temu shipments are more expensive. I'm like, look, I do business in China. I talk to Chinese people. Factories are shutting down, and you have youth unemployment of 25% in China. Like, it's going to hurt them way harder, way faster. We'll feel it in 30, 60, 90 days when shit in Walmart gets more expensive. They're feeling it right now, right? And there is ports that are just shut down. And it hasn't been good in China for like 5 years. Like, it's been a very difficult economic situation over there. So it will hurt them way more. But the flip side is we don't want to also bankrupt a bunch of American businesses, right? Like what we want to do is incentivize them to either nearshore or onshore production capacity. That takes 3 to 5 years and takes millions of dollars. So look, charge me tariffs, but give me an out. If I take that money and I bring it to American manufacturing and I hire workers and I open factories, I don't have to give you the money, right? So it's like a 1-to-1 duty deferral to incentivize U.S. investment. I mean, do you guys want the government to get more money, or do you guys want fucking more investment and factories built or whatever, right? So that's my pitch to everybody.
Makes sense. I want to get your reaction to this Slate Auto launch. Have you seen this truck? TJ Parker was talking about it. Finally, someone built a simple, cheap, utilitarian truck, $20K, made in the USA, no touch screen. Lots of people are talking about it. Did you see the launch? Did you watch the video?
Hell yeah, man. That guy's been working on it for a long time. I think he's been documenting on YouTube. So hell yeah, brother. I love to see that. And I was in China a year ago, and I was at a big like electric vehicle, essentially sales summit. Like they have 50, 100 brands all competing to sell little tiny electric vehicles. And those actually can't pass US safety standards. So they're only sold to Africa. So it was me and a bunch of African buyers walking around, and they sell for 5, 10, 15 grand or whatever. Now, if he can actually hit American safety standards and ship a $25,000 truck, I mean, he'll do $10 billion the first year, maybe more, right? Like, it's a sales gong.
Let's do it. What do we got?
Oh, the sound effects board is down. Brutal.
Let's
brutal.
hear it for founder and founder mode.
Brutal.
I want to talk about the ad. People were very happy with that. Dynamic first second, clear initial framing in the first 5 seconds, curiosity gap in the first 8 seconds, frunk, disarming anti-ad, humor, founder CEO curiosity gap. In terms, you obviously make a lot of ads, you buy a lot of ads. What did you think of the actual launch video?
Look, people are saying inside that frunk, there's actually Ridge carry-ons. So I'm not going to confirm or deny, but there could be a cameo from Ridge carry-ons.
I did see that.
Yep.
Those are Ridge trunks. I love to see it. I love to see it.
Fantastic.
Yeah. How do you, what would your complete guess on what their margin profile could look like on a $20,000 made in America truck? I know the $20,000 is like allegedly due to some EV incentives. But ultimately, how much are they actually going to make on something like that?
Yeah, so I think they said it's 27,000, and then you get a $7,000 credit if you buy an EV from a new manufacturer. I think they're going to lose about $3,000 for the first million of them they make, and that's just how auto manufacturing works, right? Like the cost to set them up, you have all these fucking machines, you have to depreciate them over time. Rivian still loses $20,000 on every Rivian they sell, so it's a different model to a higher price point, right? They're going to lose $3,000 to $10,000 for each one they sell, but. And if you guys ever study the auto market, the amazing thing about Tesla is every car manufacturer loses money on every car they sell. They only make money off of the parts and repairs.
Services,
Tesla found out a way to not do that, right?
Yeah.
Tesla found out a way to actually turn a profit on the actual purchase of vehicles. Ferrari makes $80,000 per car they sell. Tesla makes, I don't know, I think it's like $5,000 or whatever. Every other car manufacturer breaks even or loses money on the actual purchase of the vehicle. It's all about financing. It's all about parts. It's all about service. So it'd be crazy to think they're making any money on these things, but the demand shows that like they could make money over time.
I think they'll have trouble because if you have $20,000 burning a hole in your pocket, you could get 200 Ridge wallets or something, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like a
so
tough
the trade-off, 200 Ridge wallets or a little truck.
Yeah, you could buy every product on the Ridge website.
For sure.
Well, yeah, it's an interesting dynamic where it's like he has to show so much demand that he can justify, potentially raising
lots of money,
$5 to $10 billion over time in order to just like actually get these to scale. But I think the thing looks awesome.
Yeah.
And
also interesting. I think
I'll
Bezos
reserve
is in
one
this
just to
one.
support
He's
it.
also in Rivian. Bezos.
I'm surprised. I'm actually surprised they didn't go with a slightly higher reservation price point, just given the history of Tesla charging $100.
What is the reservation?
It's $50.
$50. Okay.
Tesla charged $100. You know, had this big demand signal, and then obviously
not many people showed up for the
a lot of people didn't show up. But
it's expensive.
It's a much different price point.
Yeah.
And I think this is a car that people would just buy as like I would just get one and park it outside of my house and maybe do coffee runs in it, go surfing.
Dude, I would put the $20,000 deposit down today. Like if they made skip the line, give us $20,000 today, I would totally do it.
Well, I would do it if they put a naturally aspirated V8 in it. I don't know about the electric stuff, but I would be very pro this vehicle if it had a really loud exhaust note. It was kind of like a more affordable Raptor. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, man. Well, today I'll publicly announce if you buy a Slate, I'll have a partnership with them. Free Ridge wallets for every Slate customer. We can get one-to-one. There you go.
Let's go.
And thank you for coming on. Hey, I've got this.
It's great to have you, Sean.
Awesome. We'll talk to you soon.
I love
Sean.
you. You're looking great in the suit. Don't take it off after this call. We're gonna have our paparazzi, outside your house confirming. Oh, Sean Frank just puts on a suit to go on TBPN. Make it a part of your brand, okay?
Dude, it's custom too. So you guys didn't even ask, but this is custom. All right. See you guys later. Made in the USA too. Bye.
Later.
Thank you.